Well, let's move, let's hold on that. Law and licensing, are you ready? Are you, Elisa, is Carol doing it? Okay.
Giving me that opportunity.
Okay, let me get this all, let me catch up here. So I'm going to save this, go to this. We have quite a tracking system here to make sure things are really smooth and ahead of schedule, or on schedule. Okay, Vice Chair of Law and Licensing,
It's all of the B team today.
you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Item 11.2. Everybody there with me?
Okay.
Are you ready?
We're ready
Okay.
for your report.
All right. Item 11.2 was a discussion of R277-503, and this is another one of the licensing rules that needs a sunset date. So when the overall licensing construct changes, there will be rules in place until it changes, at which point these rules will be sunsetted. So that was the point of the discussion of R277-503, and the committee unanimously approved this change, and the committee now moves that the board approve R277-503 Draft 1 on second reading, final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-503 Draft 1 on second and final reading. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting is unanimous.
The next 11.3, this was a discussion of R277-716. This is an update to an alternative language services for Utah students rule. Changed some updated some language, and there were also some provisions that are no longer needed under ESSA as opposed to No Child Left Behind. So the motion was made by Jenny Earl, moved to amend another acronym that was also part of the discussion. We accepted all of the technical edits and changes, and then the motion was to approve from the committee, was to approve R277-716 Draft 2 as amended, and move it to the board and ask for the board to approve Draft 3 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-716 Draft 3 on second and final reading. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board Member Belknap?
Aye.
Is that Hanson?
Aye, and aye to the other one, too.
Okay. Board Member Hanson, did you vote on the previous?
Christopher Giant.
He is having some kind of.
Wow.
It's his son's graduation.
It's a graduation. They're calling names.
Okay. Okay. Those opposed on the R277-716 Draft 3 on second and final reading, those opposed? Seeing none, voting was unanimous. We clean that up on that previous one.
Down to item 11.4, these were external data requests. There were 3 of them. You can read what they are. One of them was Great Schools, one of them was the National College Access Network, third was code.org. And the committee discussed all of them. The committee motion was to accept the data requests and to process the external data requests for the National College Access Network and for Liz Gauthier on code.org. And those were both of those requests were approved unanimously by the committee. There was no action on the Great Schools request, which some board members on the committee felt had some concerns about, so we took no action on that third request. So now the motion before the board is to approve the external data requests for National College Access Network and code.org on second and final reading.
I can read it all. Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve the external data request for National College Access Network and also code.org. I can read all that other stuff, but I don't think we need it in the motion. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board Member Belknap,
Aye.
Board Member Scott Hanson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Those opposed? Voting was unanimous.
Item
Please.
number 11.5, this is Board Policy 5001, Advisory Committee on Equity of Educational Services for Students, or what we know as Access.
Something.
The committee took no action on that, and I don't remember why. I don't remember if we didn't get to it
Okay.
or what
Before
situation.
we move on that, Board Member Jenny Earl, did you have a comment regarding that?
Yes, I think they hadn't taken, they still were reviewing the
That's right.
content. And so therefore,
right.
we wanted to wait till they were completed what they were doing before we made any decisions.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, Jen.
Okay, thank you.
So, nothing to offer you there. 11.6, this is another one that we discussed, but it was agreed to bring this policy back to committee, so I won't belabor that. I don't think that has to be action by the board. Is that right?
There's no action for the board.
Okay. Board, then 11.7, item number 11.7, Board Policy 1004, Advisory Groups. This was a discussion of some amendments to a policy that currently exists that would clarify the types of advisory groups the board appoints, and clarify anticipated board member participation in different advisory groups. We had probably an unnecessarily long discussion about this. In the end, the motion to pass it out of committee failed 2-2. Board Member Earl and I were opposed, and Board Member Cummins and other person, Cindy Davis were in favor of it. So we don't have any committee recommendation.
Okay, does this conclude?
That concludes our report.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Lear, for the Law and Licensing Committee report. Oh, do you have hang on. Board Member Linda Hanson, before we move off of that.
I would move that we approve policy number 1004. Draft 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I move that the board consider board policy 1004 draft 2. Is that right? Yes. Okay.
Is it, I'm going to catch up on the drafts here. Is it draft 2? Yes. As amended? Okay. Okay, we have a motion to bring back, or to bring to the board, Board Policy 1004 Draft 2. This is to bring it back onto the table. Is there a second? Who, did you get the second? Okay, do you want to speak to the motion?
I just think that this is an important decision that we need to be making. Whenever we look at advisory groups or task force or policy groups, we always try to decide what we're doing, and we have the same problem. So I would like to see the board make a decision on this so that we can make those decisions without so much discussion.
Okay. Speaking to the motion to bring it back, Board Member Bolter?
Yeah, I would like to know why Board Member Lear voted against it, and also Board Member Earl. And then,
Okay, the motion is to bring it back.
Oh.
The motion is not on the table.
okay,
To
so the motion to approve
This is just to bring it
isn't-
back for discussion.
Okay, then I will wait and
I figured you
comment.
would. Okay. The motion before the board is to bring back Board Policy 1004 Draft 2 for a motion and/or possible action. See, no further discussion. Let's vote. And this is to bring it back to the table. All in favor say aye. Board Member Belknap?
Aye.
Board Member Scott Hansen?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and those opposed? Okay, well, the ayes, raise your hands. I think we've got the two online. Board Member Hansen, Board Member Gravitt, Board Member Davis, Board Member Nielsen, Vice Chair Brittany Cummins, and Chair Huntsman, and Board Member Newell. Excuse me. Okay, motion passes to bring it back. Make a motion. You want to go back to your original? Oh. Board Member Linda Hansen.
I would move that we approve policy 1004, draft 2.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Board Policy 1004 Draft 2. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Do you want to speak to your motion?
I can.
If you choose to.
I just think that there are things that we need to know. For example, when we're looking at the safety task force, it's kind of a different animal than other advisory groups we've had before. It's because it has outside entities on it, and they're also working on things for the legislature. So I don't know that we can talk about it being a board advisory group. It needs to be something else, and this addresses that. Another thing that we struggle with are, should board members be part of advisory groups? How can you advise yourself? Can you be an advisor to the board if you're, does that make sense? So if you have an advisory group, do they need to be independent and stand alone, or can board members be on there giving their opinion, and does that affect what the advisory group does? And so that's something we struggle with, and I think it would be good to make a decision.
Okay. Board Member Ellis?
Walter was first.
Hold on, was there, we had
She waited.
You second? Yeah. Oh, so what
I was just saying Board Member Bolter was in front of me because she was waiting
oh,
for.
did I, Bolter, okay, did I already, sorry. I'm gonna take you out of the queue.
I'm going to make an amendment. That's why I'm saying.
Okay.
Oh,
Board Member Bolter. Oop, now turn yours back on. Okay.
I was really curious to find out why board members Lear and board member Earl, why they voted against this and what concerns they had. I think that would be an important thing to hear.
So there's an invitation for people on the committee to speak to their concerns. Who on the committee wants to speak to their concerns?
Well, we had different concerns.
I know, but who would like to speak to the, just show me, so there are a lot of people in the queue, so who would, okay.
I've got their names written down, so.
Okay. Board Member Jenny Earl?
I guess some of our discussion at the, in the committee was trying to understand the reason for the change, and perhaps there's more depth or knowledge, I guess, that somehow in an advisory group that there can't be dialogue if you've got members of the school board on there. I'm trying to remember what else I should have wrote down, just a couple more notes on that. But that was my trying to understand exactly what that the parameters were, why we are asking for that change. And then if you're talking, well, is the safety advisory group, is that we don't know, but is that in here? In other words, I guess I'm not following the line of thinking because it's not actually, the safety advisory group isn't in here. You're just looking for a name for it, but that wouldn't, I don't understand how that would fall into this because I think that's important that we would carry on dialogue there. So, anyways.
Okay, anyone else from the committee want to speak? That was in their board member Carol Lira.
And my concerns were a little bit different. In response to Board Member Hanson's comment, I was not, and I do not necessarily define advise as narrowly as that exact meaning. I think it's appropriate for board members to be involved in researching, understanding a topic, which I also think of as a matter of advice and discuss. So I don't necessarily think that board members should be excluded. But to me, my bigger objection to this rule, and it's probably a discussion for another day, or this policy, is that there are so many, I feel like, groups that are that have differences without real distinctions. There's a board advisory group. There's a commission. There's an outside advisory group. There is a task force, I can't remember if task force, ad hoc advisory group, or task force. So why don't we simplify this? I wouldn't mind discussing it again, and if the rest of the board is insistent that we want to have policies generally, then I would rather simplify this and come to something we could actually remember. What then, instead of saying, is this an ad hoc advisory group, or is this a board advisory group, or maybe this is a commission, so that it sounds, I think, pretty silly, and I think we should maybe simplify it if we're going to keep it. And not maybe, but I think that it would be better simplified, and that is a bigger discussion, maybe a full board discussion.
Okay, there was a question about what was happening in committee and their thoughts. Any other committee members that were in the committee want to speak? Okay, board member Cindy Davis.
So are we speaking for or against the motion now, or just?
There was a question asked about,
Okay, she just wanted those two, so.
yeah. We'd like to hear from people in the committee
Okay.
that were,
Well, I do think that there is a difference between an advisory group and a committee assignment, and that could help to simplify some of the language. But when I was on the committee, I actually initially really aligned with this thought here, and then I just personally had a little epiphany in committee meeting. I have a discussion once a week with my family around the kitchen table, and I keep saying to my husband, when we stop talking, they will start talking. Our kids will start talking. When we stop talking, our kids will start talking when we stop. And it dawned on me that it can be so similar in an advisory group type of situation. I am on one right now. I'm on the competency-based advisory group to this board. And I have loved it. And this is my third year, and my time's almost up. And I kept going once I got on the board. But I will say things kind of changed. And all of a sudden, people sort of treated me a little differently and things like that. And I'm like, what? Why are you calling me that? Why are you calling me board member Davis or whatever? It seemed silly. But regardless, that's kind of what happened. And I realized in this little epiphany in our committee meeting that board members on advisory groups could preclude advisory groups from truly advising. And this was validated to me this past weekend when I was at the USBA meetings in St. George, when I found out, I don't know if Terry Shoemaker is here or not, but I found out he has a superintendency meeting with some of our staff, and I said, oh, that'd be a great meeting to attend. Can I attend that meeting? And he said, sure, I don't have a problem with it. He said, I just hope people will still feel comfortable talking if you're there. And of course they should. We're all on the same team. We're all on the same. But it just kind of reiterated it to me again a little bit that we are in a different kind of role here, and that those who are asked to advise may be influenced in their speech if we're in the middle of the advisory group speaking as well. So that's where my mind shift came from. That
Okay,
was
so,
long, sorry.
thank you. So any committee members that haven't participated? You? Okay. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
So the intent of this policy shift wasn't to complicate or to confuse, but it was actually meant, when it was originally drafted, to bring a clarification, because we had all kinds of work going on. And what does that look like? And so differentiating the difference between an ad hoc just means it's a temporary job, and board members, you're going to get in and get your hands dirty and you're going to work, right? That's what an ad hoc. But then you have this advisory committee who lives in existence in perpetuity, and they are to advise you. And so how do we clarify the difference between those two types of groups, where board members participate and work and come up with a task, and we call those task force or ad hoc meetings, or we want to receive information or advice from based on things to our board, independent of our board. And so the policy was just meant as a clarification of what do these groups mean. And so then it just came up, well, do we need some additional clarification for a group that's kind of different than both of those things? And that's where the commission came into play of, here's something that's kind of in between, and how do we define it? And so it was just meant as a clarification. And then just in the policy of, should we have board members sitting on advisory groups, yes or no? And so that was just that question of, if they are truly advising us, is it an authentic advisory committee if we as board members are participating in that? And so that's what this policy and the amendments here are meant to do, is just to add clarification and structure to what the role of each of those groups is, and how we as a board either participate or interact with those groups.
So the question was still, what happened in committee, and why did you make the decision that you met? Before we get to speaking to the motion, is there anyone else from committee that needs to weigh in and answer the question? I think just about Jenny Earl.
Just one other comment. I know, I'm not going to think of his name. Who was there that was from the our youth advisory? Jeff was there. And just mentioning, because I know that's an advisory, but I know even when we went back to NASB, one of the things that they mentioned is that on these youth committees, that there is valuable insight that comes in from board members for these. So then maybe we have to look at the name structure, if we're going to change this, of some of these other committees, and decide if are these other entities, and decide what they are. So anyways, I just thought I'd set that out there, that that there may be somewhere there is value in it, and there may be others where there may be intimidation, or do you know what I mean, or something like that. It changes the dynamic. So yeah.
I think were you in the committee meeting? No, but you're going to speak to the motion. So we're answering that one question. Now we're speaking to the motion, and the motion that's before the board is on board to approve board policy 1004 draft 2. So now we're speaking to the motion. Board member Ellis.
I would like to make an amendment and then speak to it. I would like to reinsert on number 9, who are not official members of the board advisory group, and then I'd like to speak to it. When you're ready, I mean, I guess I have to have a second
Okay. Ready?
to speak to it.
Second.
So I wasn't in committee meeting last month when they were discussing this, or the advisory council, but after going to NASB, I've been thinking about this a lot, because I know there's been differences of opinion on what board members' role should be in one particular advisory council. And after listening to the students that were in Washington DC and talking about the valuable connection that they had with board members, I think we would be doing a disservice to invite people to come and then have them be at an arm's length from the board. And anyway, I just hate to see this as a blanket, you can't participate. And I think that maybe we could take it as at advisory group, a case-by-case basis, because in some situations I can see that it may be more applicable than others, but to just make it a straight policy that there will be no participation, I think that will have unintended consequences that you may not recognize right now because it's hard to identify all of them. But that's just my 2 cents. In the one that is the Student Advisory Council, that I know this is part of the reason why this is even being brought up, I disagree that the board members should not be interacting with those students and should just be sitting there like a fly on the wall. Anyway, so that's my reasoning for reinserting it, and I
Well, did
think
we
you
get a
could take it case by case.
Hang on one sec. Did we get a second to the proposed amendment? You spoke to the, you got that right? So, and then you spoke to the, in that.
For the main motion, so then I can ask for.
Okay, we're speaking to the amendment. Angie, did you want to comment?
Thank you. Angie Stallings, Deputy Superintendent of Policy. I think based on your description of what you're trying to accomplish, I'm worried that keeping but may not participate in the discussion or vote might be contrary to what you are wanting. But I also wanted to bring up another possible alternative. This board policy in the Student Advisory Committee policy, you could make an exception and say, notwithstanding 1004, we are going to have board members on this. So I think the key thing you would want to do for this policy is determine what the general standard would be. And if you think the general standard would be to not have board members, then I think 1004 as is would be more appropriate. But if you would like the general standard to be having board members, you would want your amendment. But since the Student Advisory Committee will be in law and licensing tomorrow, we could make an exception from this policy in that one. So.
Board Member Ellis? So,
Thank you. I just want to thank Deputy Associates. I am so bad at your title, Angie, for catching that. I appreciate it a lot. I'm gonna have to think about it, but I lean more towards participation, and then make the exception on specific places where they shouldn't participate. Because what happens is this mindset of you can't participate becomes the norm, and I think it should be the other way around.
So you may want to amend your amendment.
we're speaking to the amendment.
Delete that language.
Right, so,
She needs to adjust. I have to adjust.
okay. Okay, we'll let you adjust your amendment before we speak more on it. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it back on here. There you go.
Okay, so, and it would be and to remove but may not participate on to the period.
Yeah, sorry, yes. Delete that.
Maybe we remove that also.
Yeah, because of what Angie said. So you would reinsert and then strike but may not.
Yeah.
But then you can do it case by case in board policy, in individual committees.
So I could did you rewrite it?
Is it still they're not voting, or is it just?
I think it's that they're not voting, or no, they are going to vote.
Angie, do you have a comment?
Well, I'm just maybe thinking I
Wait,
should
hang
just.
on.
Okay.
But may participate in discussion, but not vote, right? So strike not. The second.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Just strike the not and keep.
That one, the second. But may participate.
Okay.
think you can't put and vote, that would have to be
I wonder if you want to do it this
You're
way.
taking that out?
Are we striking that now?
Taking the not out.
Ben, tell me if I'm
Okay.
doing this right, or not.
Board Member Ellis, is this your amendment? The-
How's
Yeah,
that?
we're still,
Is that
is
what
this
you
your,
want?
and is your second still good? Okay.
Is that better?
Angie, and on our policy, people, do you have a comment before?
So I've rewritten it just a bit, based on, I think, the intent, and I'm sorry, I don't know what the numbering would be right now, but essentially it would be that board members are not official members of a board advisory group. They may attend a meeting and may participate.
No.
Is that what you wanted? No?
No.
Okay.
Okay, let me find the original. Board members, okay, sorry. Board members who are official members, sorry, so take out that not, who are official members of the board advisory group may participate in the discussion. Can you put and/or vote? Because in some,
You don't
I
need-
want them to be able to participate. But
Okay, once Vice Chair Bentley
But they
comments.
they can't vote if they're not voting members, but there
Okay.
may be some instances where they were, depending on how the board did it.
Vice Chair Bentley Cummins.
Somehow you have to establish if there are members or not within the policy that organizes the advisory committee. So this needs to be silent on whether they're voting or not voting, because if you are a board member in any meeting that you're not an active participant, I think the discussion needs to go, are you there to just share your opinion and it's going to be taken as part of the discussion? Or are you talking about members who are sitting members of that advisory committee?
I
So I
am,
think needs to be clarified as well.
right, I am referring to, so of our advisory groups, we have sitting board members, and some we don't have any sitting board members. So, right, so that's what I am saying, is if the advisory group as established had board members, then those board members should be able to participate. And I don't think it's a clear cut on whether or not they'd be voting members, because that depends on the makeup of when you created the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, and the bathrooms are so far away.
We may need to differentiate the difference between a board, because we still have the opportunity to attend as a board member, which was what this section of the policy was meant to do, is that all board members are welcome to attend all advisory committees at any time. And so I think we need to change the place that you're trying to make the amendment, because now it's confused with all board members and what our role is when we attend, and board members who are an active member of the advisory.
So basically, we just want to put we have two amendments.
No, we're trying to get, I'm trying to I'm trying to get Board Member Ellis's amendment on the board and to a yes or no, so we can move on, either move on it or off of it. So I'm just wanting to make sure we're listening to her and assisting her getting what you want.
Oh,
Well, it's going to go right here because that's what you're proposing, the amendment, and that's what everyone's going to vote on. So what is it?
That I have up the amendment, or is that? They're two different amendments. Are we rewriting the whole thing?
Are we
Just-
rewriting, we're still back to 9.
oh, shoot.
That's where it
Sorry.
started.
I think,
Board member, well, we're doing a little rescue here on
How's
this
that?
amendment.
does that work?
Hang on. Hold it. Well,
We can do whatever you want. Yeah.
hang on a sec. Well, what we can do, Board Member Bolter, we need to keep all this conversation, we're in a board meeting. We have an amendment, and now we're turning this into a work meeting, trying to make a point happen. So I'm going to stray just a little bit more. Board Member Lear, what, do you have
I
a
am
comment to
just-
rescue us?
Right, I need to control my nonverbal comments more, but could we possibly table this and have a board committee discussion? And I know I was not particularly encouraged to Board Member Cummins when she suggested that, but this is not something that concerns the public very seriously, and there are other issues that do. And I think that to keep the board procedures running smoothly and everybody's feeling to be heard it's really merits a discussion, but I don't know that now is the time. Could we put it back on a committee meeting as a substitute motion, or motion to table, or point of information?
You can make a motion to refer.
Motion to refer.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Lots of seconds. Any discussion to a motion to refer? Seeing none, oh, I have a lot of lights on. Anyone, will you raise your hand if you have any discussion? Board Member Hanson.
I'm not sure that if we send it back, it's going to be any different than what happened last time. And so I hate for it to get stuck in committee. That's the reason why I brought it back forward, so that we could make a decision on it. If it goes back to a committee, perhaps maybe it should go to a different committee and see if we can send it forward and resolve it, because I just don't think, I don't know that we're
Okay,
going to be able to resolve
When a motion
it.
to refer, then it comes back to me, and based on this conversation, it will go to another committee.
Okay,
So that's
thank
what-
you.
So the motion to, speaking to the motion to refer, Board Member Janet Cannon.
Yes, so back in the days of yesteryear, I took a look, when I was trying to put together the bylaws, I took a look at all the different committees that the board was serving on and trying to figure out where they came from and what we were doing on them and how they worked in. And so we do have bylaws that spell out different things about the committees and who serves where because of statutory requirements and so on and so forth. So then we have added this board policy on top of this. And so my point is I would love to see it referred back to committee, but I hope that they would take a look and try to align what the board policy is with what is in our bylaws, or suggest amendment to the bylaws as well.
Okay, thank you. We're speaking to the motion to refer, which means that's based on all this discussion will be under consideration as this moves forward into another committee if the motion passes. We're speaking to the motion to refer. Board Member Lisa Cummins.
That's fine. This conversation is going to go round and round. I do think there is a conclusion that can happen. The fact that this is coming from a perspective that involved me in discussions and participating in the Student Advisory Council, and I wish people would just come out and say it instead of walking around it. It's kind of insulting to me, so thank you. But you know, as an advisor or as a student board, as a state board sitting on the Student Advisory Committee, I have the opportunity to teach and to not influence, but to give direction of correct policies that are on the board that maybe advisory policy advisor Jeff Van Horten can't provide, that I may have questions or answers to. That doesn't mean I get to vote. That doesn't mean I sway their direction. I could say, you know, this policy doesn't work because of this, you know, or this has already been enacted, or you can't do that. But I mean, my statements are just as valuable, and these are teenagers, and they're looking for direction. And so because we're bringing this policy back because of my involvement, I think is ridiculous. And I think it has to be on a per policy or per committee basis. So I am going to say, yeah, bring it back to committee, hash it out again.
Okay, the motion on the table is a motion to refer. We're speaking to the refer, which would be Are we going to or are we not going to? That's really where we're at right now. Board Member Cindy Davis, speaking to the motion.
I think I'm going to speak against referring it back to committee because I think once we figure out the amendment, we can get this figured out today. That'd be my preference. I don't know. I personally, in my situation, need clarity. I don't know what your situation is, but I think there are multiple situations that this policy impacts. And I'm just going to say, like I said, was on the CBE committee. Then I get elected to this board. So I ask staff, am I still on the CBE committee? Well, I'm not sure. Okay, so I keep going to those meetings, but then I read this policy. Oh, I guess I'm not on an advisory group. So now I think, as of last month, I'm not on the advisory group. Now, as of this amendment that's going to pass, I think, oh, I'm back on. So I just think we need some clarity, not just in a singular instance. I just think we need some clarity about who's on advisory groups. And do you stay on? What if I wasn't at the end of my 3 years? What if I was 1 year in? Do I stay on for 2 more years? Because I was, according to the amendment, an official. I don't care one way or another. At this point, I just think we should get it figured out and get some clarity so that we can move the business forward.
Okay, the motion before the board is.
Scott Hansen raising his hand.
Did you want to add something, Board Member Scott Hansen? This is a motion to refer. Yes, please.
If I could, I'll speak in favor of the motion to refer. I think this has some far-reaching consequences, and I'd like to see a list of all the standing committees, ad hoc committees, advisory boards that we have right now, and then look at those and see if we can craft a rule that's going to work for what we want to do. I don't know if that's been done. If it has, I haven't seen that yet, but I'm speaking in favor of pushing this back and taking a look at that and seeing if we can make a good general rule that we could abide by in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the motion before the board is to, what was the motion again? To refer, that's right. I'm not seeing any other discussion, so let's vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Online, Board Member Hansen? Scott Hansen?
Aye.
Okay. Knapp? Okay. All those opposed? Motion passes to refer. Okay, those opposed, we had one online, Board Member Belknap, Board Member Cindy Davis, Board Member Scott Nielsen. Okay. Let's see. I think that was your last, or no, we finished that, didn't we? But